I think the end game of social media is a global brain. And Twitter is, in some sense, a global brain that is completely hooked on dopamine, doesn't have any kind of inhibition, and as a result is caught in a permanent seizure.
Yes.
It's also, in some sense, a multiplayer role-playing game. And people use it to play an avatar that is not like them as they were in this sane world. And they look through the world through the lens of their phones and think it's the real world. But it's the Twitter world that is distorted by the popularity incentives of Twitter.
Is there any advice you would give on how to control this game?
I wouldn't give advice because I am certainly not an expert, but I can give my thoughts on this. And our brain has solved this problem to some degree, right? Our brain has lots of individual agents that manage to play together in a way. And they have also many contexts in which other organisms have found ways to solve the problems of cooperation that we don't solve on Twitter. And maybe the solution is to go for an evolutionary approach. So imagine that you have something like Reddit or something like Facebook and something like Twitter, and you think about what they have in common. What they have in common, they're companies that in some sense own a protocol. And this protocol is imposed on a community. And the protocol has different components for monetization, for user management, for user display, for rating, for anonymity, for import of other content, and so on. And now imagine that you take these components of the protocol apart and you do it in some sense like communities within this social network. And these communities are allowed to mix and match their protocols and design new ones. So for instance, the UI and the UX can be defined by the community. The rules for sharing content across communities can be defined. The monetization can be redefined. The way you reward individual users for what can be redefined. The way users can represent themselves and to each other can be redefined.
And who could be the redefiner? So can individual human beings build enough intuition to redefine those things?
This itself can become part of the protocol. So for instance, it could be in some communities, it will be a single person that comes up with these things. In others, it's a group of friends. Some might implement a voting scheme that has some interesting weighted voting. Who knows? Right. Who knows what will be the best self-organizing principle for this?
But the process can't be automated. I mean, it seems like the brain...
It can be automated, so people can write software for this. And eventually the idea is, let's not make an assumption about this thing if we don't know what the right solution is. In those areas where we have no idea whether the right solution will be people designing this ad hoc or machines doing this, whether you want to enforce compliance by social norms like Wikipedia or with software solutions or with AI that goes through the posts of people or with a legal principle and so on. This is something maybe you need to find out. And so the idea would be if you let the communities evolve and you just control it in such a way that you are incentivizing the most sentient communities, the ones that produce the most interesting behaviors and that allow you to interact in the most helpful ways to the individuals, right? So you have a network that gives you information that is relevant to you. It helps you to maintain relationships to others in healthy ways. Yeah. It allows you to build teams. It allows you to basically bring the best of you into this thing and goes into a coupling, into a relationship with others in which you produce things that you would be unable to produce alone.